Hello everyone and welcome to another review for Star Wars The Book of Boba Fett. Today we're taking a look at Chapter 2, The Tribes of Tatooine. So, to start off with, I think this is maybe like one of the best pieces of Star Wars content we've gotten in like the last couple years, which is saying a lot considering all of the awesome Star Wars content we've gotten in the last couple years between Clone Wars and The Mandalorian and comics and all that different multimedia stuff that's been coming out. This was just like really good episode. I liked last week's episode, the first episode, Stranger in a Strange Land, but this one, it's like, whew, boy, this was just really good. Just another example of Favreau and Filoni's influence kind of, their show's always wearing their influence on their sleeve. Because this was very much Star Wars Dances with Wolves, kind of, with Boba kind of becoming one of the Tuskins, which is really interesting. Through all the stories that have been told of Boba Fett escaping the Sarlacc pit, none of them have quite done it like this, and I'm kind of maybe thinking that this is the best version. I mean, it's canon, so this is the version of how it happened. But unlike, say, in the EU, where Boba just escapes and he's the same old guy, and he's just like, well, that was a annoying inconvenience for me, and then he goes off to continue being a bounty hunter. It seems like that this whole experience of being left for dead and having his armor scavenged by grubby little Jawas and then being kind of adopted by these Tuskins, it seems that it's left a distinct impact on him, and he's kind of learned and grown from this experience, which I'm really liking, because Boba Fett has always been, well, not always, I'm going to say the canon version of Boba Fett that we've been getting since Attack of the Clones has always been a complicated character, because you introduce him in Attack of the Clones, and then we see him in Clone Wars, and him wanting revenge on Mace Windu, and throwing his lot in with these bounty hunters, and going to prison for a time. All of that. We know where he ends up. He ends up as the most feared bounty hunter in the galaxy. He is partially responsible for the capture of Han Solo and Princess Leia and Chewbacca in Cloud City. He's the one that tracks them down for Vader, and then he takes Han Solo frozen in carbonite to Jabba the Hutt, and then he eventually falls into the Sarlacc pit, and then who knows after that. But we know where he ended up, but then the filling in of those gaps of his late childhood after the death of Jango, it really has painted Boba as a very complex and complicated character, where knowing, he ends up as this ruthless bounty hunter, but he does have this kind of moral center to him, which is interesting. And looking at Boba in Clone Wars, and especially his early stuff where, being kind of started, we didn't see too much of it. It was like in the last 5 minutes of that episode, but it's kind of seemed like Hondo sort of started a teensy bit of a little bit of a mentorship with Boba, having known Jango and teaching him about honor and all this stuff, which is something that Aura Singh did not have. She just gunned down, what's his name, Praxis, something like that. Just gunned that guy down, basically shot him in the back. I mean, she got him to turn around first, so it wasn't actually in the back, but it killed him in cold blood, just out of a petty grudge, really. Bosk was ready to just say, all right, I'm out of here, and he was just going to leave and kill the hostages and take the slave one. Not Boba Fett starship, but the slave one. So Boba kind of grappling with the wanting revenge, but also, abiding by a code of honor. It's very, very interesting for a young Boba Fett to go through, and then eventually him becoming the ruthless bounty hunter we know from Empire and Jedi. It's like, how do you... It almost seems like it's a completely different character. So I was kind of always wondering, how are they going to reconcile the two sides of Boba Fett? where it's the younger, more maybe I want to say not really optimistic, but that's the closest thing I can think of right now. Or you have that version of Boba, but you also have the other one. So how do they mesh those? And I feel like they are starting that so far in these first 2 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett. They are really starting to mesh those, where you have the ruthlessness of Boba as the bounty hunter and the warrior. He's killed a lot of people so far. It's like that no disintegrations rule. Boy, did that really come into play, because they get attacked by those assassins at the end of the first episode, and there's that one that tried to escape, and he just blew that guy straight off the side of the building with his wrist rocket. Watch those wrist rockets. And of course taking on the Pikes and their hover train in this episode, which was awesome. It's like, at this point, Star Wars needs to start incorporating more train scenes, because boy, are all the 3 train scenes that are in Star Wars pretty awesome so far. And why do 2 of them involve Boba Fett now? Because there's that one episode of Clone Wars with Ventress where she tags along with Boba and his ragtag team of bounty hunters, and there's that train that they're on. Then of course there's the Convex freighter train that's in Solo, and then now there's this one. So 2 of the 3 train sequences in big train sequences in Star Wars involve Boba Fett to a degree. That's kind of funny. But he's still going around killing a lot of dudes, but obviously he's got some compassion to him. He's showing the Tuskins he feels injustice for this train just driving by and just lighting up the Tuskins, which some Tuskins probably, as the chief says, is that there are different tribes of Tusken Raiders. Some are more violent than others. It seems like this tribe just kind of would rather just be left alone. It's like, we're gonna be over here, do our own thing, leave us alone, we'll leave you alone. We're not gonna go raid moisture farms and stuff like that, where if you raid moisture farms and kidnap a particular someone's mother, maybe that's what happens. Maybe losing all of your men and your women and your children too. Maybe that you kind of deserve that, because raiding like that is maybe not the kindest thing to do. Of course, at the same time, the Tuskins are natives to the planet. The humans are off-world settlers. So, there's a lot of like imperialist undertones, not as in the Star Wars empire, but like real life, the colonization and stuff like that. So there's parallels you can draw there to real life and stuff, which is like, this is a really complicated issue, and it's like, and this is a franchise for kids. So it's like, that's fun. That's kind of fun that they throw stuff in there that, if you're older and you can notice these things, it's like, oh yeah, that's kind of adds depth to it. Where for a 7-year-old's like, ooh, Boba's doing stuff that's cool. And it's like, he's riding a swoop bike. That's awesome. It's like a panther. It's like the whole training montage of him training the Tusken Raiders to ride the swoop bikes and everything was pretty funny, because Tuskens have always been a little more primitive. They've used, blasters and stuff, but they have their gaffy sticks and they're running around. They don't speak basic. It seems like they're kind of like Wookiees, where they're incapable of speaking basic, for all we know. In the EU, there is a Yark, old plug eye in the Kenobi novel, that she can speak basic to a very limited degree. It's not like full sentences. It's very much broken, but she can still do it. So, but that's non-canon. Now, the character itself, Plug Eye, she is actually canon thanks to a certain point of view, but she's only just in the one story, and it kind of alludes to the Kenobi novel being canon. But it's one of those things. We'll have to see if the show, what the Kenobi show does. So I'm also interested to see if there's going to be any crossover here between Book of Boba Fett and Kenobi later this year, because they both are going to be taking place on Tatooine for the most part. I'm pretty certain. So we're getting a lot of Tatooine this year, that's for sure. But so the flashback scenes in this episode took up the majority of the episode. Like, this is like a 50-minute episode almost, and it's a good half hour. It's a good half hour of the 50 minutes, and I really enjoyed it. I also think that we're not going to get too much flashback, because I don't really see where the flashbacks could go moving forward, except one direction, which I think is going to be pretty tragic. I think that what's going to happen is the Pikes are going to go back and going to report, hey, these Tusken Raiders are giving us some trouble. And there's a human among them. We don't know who he is, but, they're giving us some trouble. And so then the Pikes are going to reach out, and it's like, hey, our spice trade is kind of being disrupted here. Hey, Bib Fortuna, you wanna do something about this? And so Bib Fortuna is going to send out his goons and in a raiding party, and they're going to kill most of the Tuskins. But they're going to, keep Boba alive to go, oh, we'll bring him to our master. But then Boba, breaks free, and he's like, who sent you? Oh, it was Bib Fortuna. And he's like, and so then, like, Boba vows, okay, I'm going to kill Bib Fortuna, and I'm going to take over Jabba's claim here on Tatooine, so that way nothing happens to Tusken Raiders ever again, something like that. I don't think it's going to be that simple, but I think it's going to be something along the lines of that. So we'll see. I think that's and then we'll get him finding Fennec Shand, and then he's going to wander around for a bit. He's going to find Fennec Shand in the desert. They're going to get the Slave One back. They're going to go, they're going to realize that Cobb Vanth has his armor, and then they're going to realize that Din Djarin got the armor, and then we'll see like probably little bits and pieces of the tragedy. It's like, I don't want your armor, I want my armor. It belongs to me. We'll see like that, and then we'll be caught up, and we'll realize what the stakes are, and then it'll be like all present day stuff going forward. That's kind of what I think. Could be wrong, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. So yeah, but I mean, the flashbacks have done a really great job making Boba feel like one whole character now, where it is that more compassionate honor side that has the code of honor that when he was younger, with the more lethal Devil May Care Boba Fett from the recent Star Wars Marvel comics, where he is definitely the built up in your head, this is what Boba Fett was like as a bounty hunter, where he is just running around gunning down people. Left and right, yeah, but not without purpose. It's definitely if you're in my way, you're going to get hurt. But he doesn't kill needlessly. It's just like, all right, yeah, I've got a job to do, so I'm going to do my job. So he's ruthless, but he's not, I would say, a wanton murderer. He's complicated. I really like these shades of gray with characters like Boba Fett, especially what they're doing with him now. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the flashback. So now we'll get caught up to the present. Star Wars fans being Star Wars fans, I just love the little fake out of Fennec Shand going, well, if you're not going to speak, then we'll just feed you to the Rancor. And it immediately gets the guy to pop up, and then the door opens. She's like, it's empty, dummy. And I'm like, yeah, I knew it was empty, because that's like a whole 5-minute scene in Return of the Jedi of Luke killing the Rancor. Now, I was kind of curious if whether or not they were going to have replaced the Rancor, if Bib Fortuna got like another Rancor, and they had like a baby Rancor in there. I thought that would have been funny if the door opened and it was like a really tiny Rancor in there. But I was more expecting it to be empty, which it was. And then there's just like the one little rat in there, which was funny. So yeah, then they go to the mayor. I really don't like the mayor's little aide guy. That he is. I don't know what his name is. I don't know if he has a name besides like the mayor's aide. But he is such a little weasel. I just do not like him. At any moment, I'm just going, okay, Boba, you can kill this guy. just shoot him in the face. I think we'll be good if he's no longer breathing. I just don't like the guy's general vibe. It's like he's so weaselly. It's like, yeah, no, just shoot him. Just shoot him. It's like when he was trying to get them to not into the office. I'm like, just shoot him. Just shoot him and walk right in over his corpse. Just go see the mayor. Speaking of the mayor, might I say I'm pretty sure that's a practical effect on that Ithorian, and man, does it look good. That Ithorian looks so good. I'm 95% certain those are all practical effects. They've got like someone in a suit with the big Ithorian prosthetics on and everything. It looked so good. I really like the mayor, and seeing like the big Ithorian jaw or whatever moving with the translator on top of it that was introduced in Clone Wars for the first time. I just thought that was really cool. So yeah, but then of course we get the big reveal that the Hutts are back in town. These are 2 new Hutts that I don't think have been introduced anywhere prior to now. They're known as the Twins. I don't think we know their names other than that, but one's a guy, one's a girl. And so, I mean, it's interesting that the Hutts are now suddenly, after like 5 years, coming back to stake their claim on Jabba's turf. It's like maybe Bib Fortuna just did whatever they told him, and so Bib Fortuna, and so he was able to kind of pretend to be the crime lord, but it was like, ooh, look at me, I'm an important crime lord, but he still kind of bowed to those Hutts' wishes. And now that Fortuna is dead, and now that Boba's in charge, you're like, okay, now we really need to step in. So it was a drastic change up from the last episode, where Fennec's like, they're used to Hutts being paraded through the streets on their dioceses with their bands and stuff, and it's like, and Boba's like, I have feet, I can walk, I'm not a Hutt, I can do my own bidding. And then immediately in the next episode, here come the Hutts raised up on their platform with all the people walking them around, and they've got the person with the drums, and they've got a whole I love it. The Star Wars version of like the old medieval guy coming out with the scroll, but it was a hologram instead. That was so cool. But that's not even the best part. The best part was in the reveal afterward. It's like, yeah, well, we brought some muscle with us, and who is it? Black Chrysanthemum. So cool. The reveal was so awesome, where it's like they kind of alluded to that. I'm like, is it going to be Black Chrysanthemum? Please tell me it's Black Chrysanthemum. And then he walks into frame, you just see him from the back, and the shoulder armor. I'm like, oh yeah, this is awesome. It's like, that's how you do that's such good fan service, but it's also making sense for the story, and it's opening up the wider world of Star Wars. And man, does that costume look good. I don't know who they've got in that outfit, but just the eye work, the eye work with the way he glared at Boba, where it was a respectful glare. It's I'm in business and I'm not afraid to throw down, but we worked together in the past, and I respect you, because you're Boba Fett, and I'm Black Chrysanthemum. We've got an understanding, but I'm being paid here, so don't cross me, or I will rip your arms off. So it's just so cool. It was just so cool to see him. For those unaware, Black Chrysanthemum is a character from the Marvel Star Wars comics that have been running the last 5-6 years or something now. And he's a very, very formidable bounty hunter. He's thrown down with Obi-Wan. That's actually how he got his scars. He's thrown down with Obi-Wan. He's thrown down with Chewbacca. It's like he's been tagging along with Dr. Aphra a lot in the last couple of years. He's like one of the major players in that comic series. So yeah, it's just really, really cool to see a comics character jump from page to screen like this. And since it's all one canon and it all is all interconnected and stuff, it's like, see, again, this is the thing I've been saying for forever, is that Star Wars does a better job, at least right now, of being it's all connected, but more than Marvel does, which is just really cool. So, yeah, I guess really my final thought here on this episode is really, really great episode, but where are we going forward with the Future Day stuff? I guess there's about to be a gang war. Boba's going to maybe try to consolidate power on Tatooine and say, we don't need to be lorded over by these Hutts from Nal Hutta. We can do our own thing here on Tatooine. So, and that's where we get like the dinner scene that we've seen in the trailers and stuff, where it's like, why speak of conflict when cooperation can make us all rich? Knowing Favreau and Filoni, there is one thing that I am wondering, are they going to bring it back? Because I've been thinking this for years. Are they going to touch on Rada the Hutt? Because maybe the one, because now these Hutts that are Jabba's cousins, they're coming in trying to stake their claim on Jabba's turf. If it's a whole family-related thing, it's like, well, we're family. Who would have a more direct connection to Jabba's turf than Jabba's cousins, Jabba's son? If they bring in a older, but I mean, Hutts may age slower, so maybe Rada, even though he's 30 years old or something, he's like a teenager now, and so he's not really ready for the responsibility, but Boba can go to him and say, hey, just publicly state that Boba is doing everything in my stead, and then I can continue to operate as I have been. You can continue to do wherever the heck you've been since the Clone Wars. It's like, I just, knowing these two, I would not put it past them to bring back Rada the Hutt. I doubt they're ever going to use the name Stinky. But, I mean, I've been wondering for years, where the heck is Rada going? Because he had his 2 appearances in Clone Wars. He was in the movie, and then he was in, what was the name of the episode? Spear of Influence from Season 3. Where he kind of showed up in a quick cameo whenever Chairman Papanoida and his son went to Tatooine to see about finding the kidnapped daughters. But other than that, we have not seen Rada since, and he's not in Return of the Jedi, obviously. So he's never mentioned after. So what the heck happened to Rada the Hutt? I don't think he's been in any comics explaining it away. So it's just one of those things where it kind of feels like, this was not a popular character, so we're just going to shelf him and not bring him back. It's like, but I'm so intrigued by characters like that, where it's like, okay, so if this is a character that didn't work the first time, how do you bring them back and make them work again? And maybe you do keep them on the shelf until you can figure that out, because I feel like Jar Jar is kind of the same way, where Phantom Menace, obviously people weren't a fan of him, but then I think he was used to much better effect in, say, Clone Wars, maybe a little bit Attack of the Clones, since he had less screen presence, but he was still kind of integral to the plot, and he kind of had his little B plot that wasn't really well developed. But Attack of the Clones is Attack of the Clones. So I'm really maybe they could do something with Rada the Hutt. I think that could be fun. Tie us into Clone Wars a little bit. I think maybe that could also open the door for Hondo coming in, because I would love to see Hondo in live action. Have someone, I mean, they have the prosthetic suit because they used it for the opening of Galaxy's Edge a couple years ago. So I mean, just bring that back. Have Jim Cummings do the voiceover, just easy peasy. So I'd love to see that. So yeah, I am very, very excited for the next episode. This is like. This is in like top 10 Star Wars episodes of Star Wars television episodes. This is up there with like the best of Clone Wars and Mando and Rebels and stuff. So maybe one day I'll do like a top 10 Star Wars TV episodes list or something like that. But yeah, for now, that will be it for my review, and I will see you guys next week for another Fett Friday. So remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that great stuff. Remember to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Those links are in the description below, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.